Good day, Canadians. My name's Leslie Bory. I'm an independent candidate in this federal election in the riding of Brantford-Brant. All right, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about home ownership on minimum wage. In our Western culture, we believe that we should have a Western standard of living. That means that if you work 40 hours a week or have steady employment, you should be able to afford a home at the very least. It's a minimum requirement in our Western standard to be able to own a house if you're a hardworking individual. Now, presently, the economic conditions don't allow for home ownership by anyone except for the richest people in our nation. And a lot of the times, these people are now foreigners, and they come to Canada not to buy a home, but to speculate on prices. And they drive the prices of houses up. All right, so we shouldn't allow any more foreign ownership of property in Canada, number one. Number two, if you want to own a home, you're going to have to be employed. And if we have free trade agreements in place that send our manufacturing overseas so that others can get wealthy and come to Canada with the money that we should have earned here and buy up all our housing, well, these things are wrong. We should change these things legislatively and get out of free trade agreements. Another matter is immigration. All these people can do that favor the immigration is call you a racist when you point out to them that we have homeless in Canada now. We have refugees on our soil presently. Some were older immigrants, some were born here, these people. All right, so we should take care of those people first and put them into houses before we bring more immigrants into Canada. That's just a simple thing. All right? And these hateful people sometimes they're from privileged minority groups, will call people like me a racist just because of the color of my skin and because I suggest to people that we take care of our own first. All right? I don't mention any colors or races when I do this either. All right? A Canadian's a Canadian. The most important thing about a Canadian is what's in their heart. There's some people that were born here that really shouldn't be Canadian. They shouldn't even be here, all right? So the same thing goes with immigrants. Some people shouldn't be here, and some people make excellent, like-minded Canadians, all right? So one way that Canadians should be like-minded is that we should agree that if banks are going to print money, which they always do and always will, that these banks should be run by the public if they're going to print Canadian dollars and not by some private group or by some religion, okay? So these banks should also not charge interest on money that they create out of thin air. If I were to hold up a $20 bill right now and ask you to buy it off of me for $21, you look at me like I'm stupid, all right? Yet people like Pierre Poilievre are trying to say that we get our money cheaply, all right? When in fact banks print $20 and they want $21 back. And if that's the way that all money is coming into existence, that means that the debt can never be paid by the principal that's in existence in the real world. Okay, that means there's always more debt than money. So if there's always more debt than money, then how on earth can we print too much money if we never have enough to pay off the debt? It's impossible. Okay? That's another matter. And I suggest to you that you elect someone like me, not so I can bring you instant change, which I can't do because I'm an independent candidate. But even the party people won't push for things to take us in the right direction, which I will. And one of these things is not to go on a gold standard or to print money which is backed by nothing. All right? We should back our currency with labor. There was a country in the 30s that they came out of a hyperinflation by printing interest-free money, and they backed it with labor. And that's how they got rid of the hyperinflation. And 3 years after a famous but lied about hero to these people got into power, an economic hero, because later things went bad. All right, this person brought this nation's economy from being worse than it was in North America, where people were starving during the Depression. You don't hear about that much, right? So he took this European economy that was worse than that. And they had hyperinflation. They backed their currency with labor. In 3 years, they employed everybody. They hosted an Olympics with no debt. And they did all of this by backing their currency with labor. What's more valuable, your labor or gold? How did gold get here? Labor. There you go, folks. Checkmate. And not to mention the gold standard, it changes value. So globalists can manipulate the value of the gold to manipulate your currency in your nation. All right? So that means that they control the price of the goods in your country. So if they want to predate on your nation, they can lower prices and walk in with a small amount of foreign currency and buy up a lot of goods here, which is what's been going on. All right? So, to fix the housing crisis, we have to control our own banks, print money with no interest, back our printed currency with labor, lend money to people for homes at no interest. So we print the money the way they do now, but we lend it to people with no interest. And that way there's always enough money in the system to pay all the debts. And your savings does not devalue in the bank because of the printing of interest. If I get a bank loan, say $100 from the bank, and I walk out of the bank, just because the passing of time, it's devalued. I wait 10 seconds, I walk in the bank, I can't pay this loan with its own face value. The $100 will not pay for itself. They're going to want 101. You see how that devalues currency? You throw that into the mix, and all currency devalues. You can't devalue $100 bill without devaluing all currency in Canada that way. All right, and that's inflation. Today, what they're saying is that the printing of money to get us through this scamdemic is devaluing the currency more, like at an increased rate. Well, to be entirely accurate, you only decrease currency's value regarding relating to what the interest rate is. So the lower the interest rate, the slower your currency devalues. All right, so what they're doing is they're excusing price gouging, and they're calling it inflation because of the printing of currency. Okay, folks? So now let's get into how we could buy a home on minimum wage, $15 an hour in Canada, all right? Well, when you print your currency and you back it with labor, that means that every dollar the civil service gets paid has been a dollar that's been earned into existence. All right? So that means the new homeowner, be it a minimum wage person, a senior, or any Canadian, can purchase a home with the money that they don't have to spend on income taxes or on property taxes, because the civil servants will have earned their pay into existence. Human labor is the most precious commodity in the world. And we'll print the world's most valuable currency because it's backed by the most precious commodity in the world. Human labor. There is no commodity worth more than this. There's nothing in this world worth more than a human being. And their labor is the most valuable thing there is. All right, guys? Okay. So you've got no property tax, you've got no income tax, also licensing. Licensing is just a scam to get you to pay tax to drive an automobile. Also, car insurance is a huge scam. Insurance is backed up 80% by the public. So why shouldn't the public just print the money to back up the labor that a mechanic would use to repair an automobile, or the person at the factory that used to create that part? Also, our lending system will contribute to the purchases of goods. All right, when people start paying their money the money from their labor to pay their mortgages that we printed out of thin air for them, the government can take that money and use it twice. Number one, we lent it to people at no interest so they could buy a home and generate business and create opportunity for people. But when they actually start paying that money back that we created out of thin air, it'll be backed by their labor. And also we'll be able to reinvest it into the country, this new money. And we'll be able to use it twice. It'll be back twice, if at least. It's wonderful. It's the way to go. So $15 an hour, you've got very little overhead now. So basically you're taking home $600 a week. So you take $5 an hour out of your $15 an hour wage. That's a third of your wages. It leaves you with $400 a week. And over the course of a year, there's 2,000 hours. So $5 an hour, that's $10,000 a year. What we'll do is we'll reassess the value of homes back to about 1985 when people could afford to buy things. Remember, these homes were artificially inflated, okay? It's all based on perception. You take the millionaires out of the picture, believe me, folks, the price is going to drop, all right? So, a $100,000 home can be purchased over 10 years by someone with minimum wage. And then after that 10-year period is done, the minimum wage earner is now $800 a month richer, or $5 an hour richer, however you want to look at it. All right, after 10 years, you're on the power play after that, okay? So that's my plan on how to buy a home on minimum wage with a few legislative changes to help you accomplish that. And remember, you're far better doing it the way I'm suggesting to do it, because this way, when we reassess and refinance mortgages, some people who paid, say, $600,000 for a $100,000 home, well, some of those people will be out of debt and they'll be homeowners after this process. Because when we reassess the value of the homes, we match your debt to the price of the home. So you're not paying $600,000 for a $100,000 home. And in the end of all that, a lot of people are going to be instant home buyers. They won't have to pay any mortgage. They'll have to pay no property tax. They'll never have to file for income tax ever again in Canada. Now the option is this. The other parties are going to offer you something else, but they're not going to tell you what it is. And I'll tell you what it is. Right now there's a bank bail-in in place. I believe Stephen Harper brought that in, where banks can take all your money and then just give you shares of a worthless bank. All right? That's what it is, to the best of my understanding. Okay? So that's one bad thing that can happen to you and all your savings. Another thing is banks could raise interest rates. And that would hurt the homeowner. Now, banks and governments seem to work together to do you harm. So that means the banks will probably signal to the government that it's time to crash the economy. All right? There's a lot of ways they can do that. They can start bringing in more foreign goods and things like this. They can raise your taxes. So now the bank wants more money from you. The government wants more money from you. The economy's been crashed. You can't even work. Guess what? That bank just turned thin air into your house like that. And that's the banker's magic trick. Whenever you have a financial crisis, banks do the hocus pocus. They make a few moves legislatively with their buddies in the government, and they end up pricing you out of home ownership, and they turn that thin air into homes and businesses and whatever else that is a material good that was bought with their dirty money. All right, guys? So in a nutshell, that's how I would fix the banking crisis in Canada. We could do it legislatively by lowering the bar on home ownership. Also, we can make it possible for Canadians to earn their way through life by providing them with a fair playing field. As a matter of fact, I'll make it an unfair playing field. We'll tax the corporations, not because we need the money, just to retard their process a bit so that Ma and Pa can come out on top. Because during this scamdemic, it's hard not to notice that corporations were very much favored to reduce our points of supply so that they can have more control over us. Okay, if you have fewer places to buy groceries, then if they implement a vaccine passport, they've got more control over you. Now, if mom and pop businesses were stronger in our nation, they could have avoided all these economic problems by resisting the government. And there would have been too many little fires to put out. But because mom and pop businesses have been snuffed out almost entirely, the corporate world worked lock and step with this government to help take our freedoms away and to put us in grave danger from these vaccines. All right, my friends, all of the best to you. My name's Leslie Bory. I'm an independent candidate in the riding of Brantford-Brant. Good luck to all Canadians. All right, guys, have a great day.